These are the things that we're trying to prevent. Pennsylvania, our neighbor, contributed over 400 crime guns in New York State in 2007 alone. Altogether, these are 6 states that have contributed over 2,200 illegal guns to New York State. But if you want the data to hit home since I took office, like I said, the UPD has taken 1 gun a week off the streets since I've been in office. 1 illegal gun off the streets since I've been in office every week. I've also reported how Congressman T. Hart's amendments prevent cities from tracking guns and accessing trace data. So instead of just relying on the tracking of those illegal guns, Utica will track the gun offenders and limit the harm the T. Hart amendments inflict on government. Why else does Utica need this law? Well, 2 years ago this month, one of our very own officers was gunned down by an illegal gun. Tom Lindsey served as a Utica police officer and was killed in the line of duty. His death opened my eyes to illegal guns and many of us in this community. We honored Tom, we prayed for him and his family, and we vowed never to let something like this ever happen again. But what if Tom's killer was being tracked? Would that have made him think before carrying an illegal gun? Could that have stopped him? I can't answer that question, yes or no. I can, however, tell each of you that a law like this sends a clear message to the criminals. It tells them not here, not Utica, not our citizens, not our officers. That is why this GORA, this registry law, will be dedicated to our slain officer, Tom Lindsey, and known as the Lindsey's Law. We are in a time where mass shootings are becoming a common occurrence. Just recently in Binghamton, the sad occurrence that happened there. 10 years ago this month, Columbine. 2 years ago, this time, Virginia Tech. And just remember what I just told you. Virginia is one of the states that allows the gun show loophole laws, where someone can walk up and buy an illegal gun, no questions asked. We are in a time where disguising an illegal gun becomes as easy as the technology itself. We are in a time where felons released from prison find it so easy to go back to their old habits and their old ways. Fortunately, we are also in a time where mayors around America have taken notice. Fortunately, we are in a time where cities like Utica can lead the way, tracking the offenders, protecting police, protecting our families, and yes, a time where humanity itself can reclaim its place in the fight against illegal guns and the criminals who purchase them. One final word before I close. This law will have one loophole in it, one way to avoid this law. If an offender leaves Utica and they are no longer subject to this law, if they leave Utica, they are no longer subject to this law. So to the criminals, I ask you, please use the loopholes. Get out of Utica. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to introduce John Feinblatt from Mayor Bloomberg's office. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here today to Utica. And Mayor Bloomberg this morning asked me specifically to tell you what a pleasure it is to have you as a member of Mayors Against Illegal Guns. There are over 350 members. They represent 17 cities in New York State, and you are an extraordinary, active, and vital member of the group. You know, Mayors Against Illegal Guns is really committed to 2 things. It's attacking the supply and the demand of illegal guns. It's not a choice between the two. It's not an either-or proposition. And above all, it's not about gun control. It is about crime control. Shutting off the supply of illegal guns means pushing for smart laws, like closing the gun show loophole, which I know you have called for. It's closing the gun show loophole so we don't have to ever again observe the 10th year anniversary of Columbine, as we did last week. But it's also about cutting off the demand. And cutting off the demand means passing tough laws, laws that actually punish criminals. In New York State, we have the toughest laws for the illegal possession of a loaded gun. And with this announcement today, we are going to add to that suite by passing the Gun Offender Registration Act here in Utica. So why is it so important to have the Gun Offender Registration Act? Well, there's really two reasons. One of those reasons comes from data, and the other reason, I'm sorry to say, draws from tragedy. First, the data. When we in New York City looked at gun crimes versus all other felons, we found some amazing things. One was we found that gun offenders recidivated more quickly and more frequently than other felons. We also found that when they did recidivate, they recidivated more violently. And if that wasn't bad enough, we also found that they were 4 times more likely to be arrested for a homicide than other felons. That's what we learned from the data. Now what we learn from tragedy. Police departments across the state remember the death of Officer Thomas Lindsey here in Utica. And I'm sorry to say that in New York City, we have not been spared the same tragedy. In fact, since Mayor Bloomberg took office, 9 NYPD officers have been shot and killed by illegal guns. And shockingly, 2 of those killers had previously been convicted of gun charges. Had a gun offender registry been in effect then, who knows? Perhaps those deaths might have been prevented. But what we do know is that each and every police officer deserves our best effort to protect them, just as they protect us. And we think a gun offender registration will do just that. How do we know it? We know it because we've got the proof. 98% of the offenders in New York City's gun registry are in full compliance with the law. We know where they are, and most important, they know we're watching them. And in Baltimore, the news is just as good. In fact, only 3 of the 200 gun offenders in their registry have been rearrested, and that means less crime and safer streets. Again, Mayor, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for taking this step, which I know will make Utica safer and resonate across the cities in New York State. You today are taking a giant step to protect cops, not criminals.